Season 1, Episode 11. I rode my motorcycle in the rain with a backpack full of recording gear, north to Calgary to Airdrie, to meet with Cody Fitzsimmons on location at Fitzsimmons Brewing Company. So, the sound is going to be a little weird. Sorry about that. I've done my best to balance it, but I focused more on Cody and less on me. It's the story of Cody and Pam starting an award-winning brewery in Alberta, the challenges and support of operating a micro-brewery, their amazing full-circle sustainable philosophy, creating some of the most unique and interesting beers I've ever tasted. Then we go off the rails and talk about Mac vs. PC, video games, with Terry Crews makes an appearance, and of course, favorite bands. I'm your host, Michael Dean Dargy, Season 1, Episode 11, Beer, It's Science, on RebelRebel. Well, welcome to the RebelRebel podcast. I'm sitting here with Cody Fitzsimmons, and I'm actually on location at Fitzsimmons Brewing Co. in Airdrie, Alberta. Cody, how's it going?
Oh, it's not too bad. How are you?
I'm awesome. So I rode up here with all my gear.
Yes.
In the rain.
Yes.
And
on a motorcycle.
On a motorcycle, yeah. And it was worth it, because I'm sitting here at this huge table in your tap room, and there's a big boy flight of beers.
Yes.
Which is awesome.
Actually, I don't know if it's on subject or not, but this table, we actually made these. Take a look at the legs here. These are the mounting brackets from all the vessels that we brought in that we just re-welded and turned into a table.
No way.
Yeah, so this is my favorite table in the brewery.
That's awesome.
And the wood here we actually get from the farmer who we give all of our spent grain to. So yeah, this is our local table.
That's amazing. So you just take the stuff that you created this brewery with and turned it into other stuff, repurposed.
Yes.
You're like full circle brewery.
It's like one of those things where, I mean, we're trying to maximize our dollars. We're opening up a brewery, right? And so we want to do things that are economically priced, but at the same time turn out cooler. You can't buy benches like this.
No way.
So, I mean, it would be easier just to buy them, but it would cost money. And these are now a talking point that we've spent the first minute talking about. So, yeah.
That's awesome.
We have pieces like that all throughout the brewery here.
Oh, that's awesome. It's lovely. If you haven't been, check it out. Come up to Airdrie, and I'll put map directions on the blog part of this, but...
Take the turn off for the Tim Hortons, and you'll find us.
There you go.
Everyone from Calgary just recognizes us as the turn off for the Tim Hortons.
Nice.
Just keep going 1 minute north, and you're good.
You will find it. How long have you been here?
Well, officially, our grand opening was November 25th, but unofficially, I want to say it was like the 16th or something when we got our final license and everything was through, all the paperwork was done, we had beer. So we just made a little Facebook post for anyone following us saying, hey, we have beer. And so our unofficial opening date, I believe to be November 16th, but officially we opened up here November 25th.
And we're talking 2017.
Yes.
Right? In case you listen to this in the future.
Yes. Oh, I guess so. And I always love telling people we are Airdrie's oldest brewery. Because currently we're Airdrie's only brewery, so that also means that we're the best brewery.
Yeah, of course.
And I usually finish that off by saying we're the most humble brewery.
Nice. Yeah. You got it down cold.
Yeah.
Okay, so take me back for a bit here.
Yeah.
When, so it's you and Pam that started this thing.
Yes.
When did this become an idea that you're serious about?
It's kind of like that movie Inception.
Uh-huh.
So Pamela and I, we were living in Vancouver for a while. So I went out there for culinary school. And when you live in Vancouver, like just breweries were a thing there. It didn't exist in Alberta. There was laws prohibiting microbreweries.
Right. Yeah.
So you would walk around Vancouver and like basically every corner there'd be a Starbucks and there'd be a brewery. So you could always go in and get a pint and try something different.
Yeah.
And so I think the first time we actually, like that switch in our mind got flicked, we were visiting Pamela's uncles on Galliano Island, and there was a brewery for sale on the island, and we drove by it and we're like, oh, that'd be cool. And that was the inception point.
That would be cool.
Yeah, that would be cool. That would be cool. Well, I mean, we like beer for so many reasons. I mean,
give me some of those reasons. We're looking at this flight of beer, and I'm so excited. So walk me through your excitement.
Yeah, I think we'll go back and forth in time, so I'll try and keep track of it all.
Yeah, cool.
Like, way back in the day, my dad was with the Stampede for years, and basically when you're with the Stampede, all you drink is Budweiser.
Right.
It's not like they pay him to drink it, but like that's his go-to beer. So Budweiser was like what my dad drank, that exclusively. And so I always saw it around, and of course when I came to age, tried Budweiser. I'm like, oh, so that's beer. But it wasn't until, so I grew up in Bonavista in Calgary.
Yeah.
And there was a Brewster's down the road from our house. And so me and my buddy Matt would go to Brewster's, and that was the first time I had a beer. I think like one of the first ones I tried was raspberry.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God, like, what is this? And then blueberry. And then there was a whole menu, probably like 11 different beers.
Wow.
And the one I kept going back to was the Hammerhead Red.
Yeah. Like,
that was my bread and butter. I'm like, I really like this beer. But it's not like I would go there and just like always get Hammerhead Red. I'm not, like always getting Budweiser.
Right.
The fact is there's so many beers to try, and all of them have different like values and different things that are good and bad.
Yeah.
So
This opened your eyes to the entire vista that is beer.
Yes. So beer, I mean, in our family, like Mom and I would always do a lot of cooking, and you would always pair wine to what you make. That was very commonplace in our household.
Oh, that is cool.
Yeah. So I had a huge affinity for wine. So, I mean, I preferred drinking beer just because beer, it could be a hot summer's day or it could be a cold winter's day. There's a beer for that.
Yeah, right.
So you can pair it with mood, you can pair it with weather, but you can also pair it with what you're making and creating. So I always had the background of you pair things like wine with food.
Yeah.
So as I got more adventurous with food, I also got more adventurous with beer.
Oh.
And that just kind of led to one thing to another where, looking right in front of us right here, we have our blonde, the amber, and our current seasonal, the burnt wheat ale. This amber is at several barbecue places around town, even in Red Deer.
Oh, wow.
The one in town is Main Street Beer and Barbecue. It's the same as Hayden Block. They're sister restaurants. And that was part of the thought process of coming up with this beer. This is a beer that goes really well with barbecue food.
No kidding.
Yeah, and something like the blonde is much easier to drink. Great summertime beer, but...
Yeah, these are gorgeous.
I guess we should actually smell it. Here, cheers.
Cheers.
Because as I'm tasting that, I'm not tasting beer. I mean, I'm tasting beer, but I'm thinking of all the flavor combinations that could be paired with.
Yeah. Oh, and it's delicious. Like, this is fantastic. You're also a chef, right? Like, you come by your palate honestly. Mm-hmm. You've done some serious cooking as well as some serious brewing.
Yep. Well, I guess fast forward again into the future on this weird timeline. So we're in Vancouver, and it was a thought like, oh, it'd be neat to open a brewery. I went to culinary school for making food, culinary. Yeah. And they essentially forced me, and I say that kind of like in quotes, forced me to take baking and pastry courses, because that was part of their curriculum, and I thought I had zero interest in it. Huh. And it wasn't until I actually took those courses that I found out I greatly enjoyed them, because it was a combination of cooking food, like, make a recipe and you execute it. Yeah. But unlike culinary, where you're tasting something like mashed potatoes and you're like, oh, it needs salt. You put some salt in it. Oh, it needs a little something else. And you make those adjustments. Whereas baking was something where you plan it out ahead of time.
Right.
I want it to have this consistency. I want it to have this sweetness. I want it to have this flavor. And it's all planning and then execution. And you don't know until the very end whether or not it worked. And so it was just one giant science experiment. And that's what I learned. And that's the part that got me really excited.
Yeah.
And so out of school, I went to work in a patisserie, and I was making like cakes and croissants and chocolates and those kind of things. And I think that's really the linchpin for me that got me away from pursuing like becoming a chef in a restaurant.
Right.
I could go and become a pastry chef in a restaurant. That's something that did interest me, and that's what I did in Vancouver.
Yeah.
But, fast forward a little while longer, and what is beer if not just making these recipes, planning it out ahead of time, hoping for the best, executing and seeing what the end result is.
Right.
This is science in a glass.
Right. So the beer follows that same trajectory for you.
Yes.
You plan it all out, then you've got to put it together and hope for the best when it comes out.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
And
that sounds risky.
yes. Here, if you pull this burnt wheat ahead of you.
Yeah. Oh, this is my kind of beer. This is my style right now. It's dark.
Oh, it's dark and.
Oh, it's. Oh man.
So
you can't even see through it.
No, so we nicknamed this one in the brewery. We call it Muddy Water because one thing that we didn't really plan for, and in hindsight was pretty obvious, was that when you make a wheat beer, it's naturally hazy. And so we picked up, it's actually a chocolate wheat that we got from Red Shed in Red Deer. They sent us a sample and we were snacking on it like candy. We're like, oh, this is good. We should make beer out of this. And so it's half malted barley, it's half wheat. A small percentage of that is the actual dark wheat because, as you can see, that dark wheat goes a very long way very quickly.
No kidding, and you're holding it up against the window.
Oh no, there's no sunlight going through this one.
There ain't no sunshine.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, this is great. And this again, this is my touch. This is the thing that I love is that it's got so much taste to it.
So we found on this one, the reason why I wanted to talk about this one is this is an example of a calculated risk. Okay. Because we had never had a burnt wheat ale before, let alone like a burnt wit.
Yeah.
We don't outwardly call it a wit because, it doesn't matter how much planning we do. We really found that black wheat was the star of the show.
Right.
But there are notes of orange and coriander because we went to Silk Road Spice Market and picked up orange peel and coriander and included it in this beer. It's very complimentary to it.
Yeah.
Honestly, now that I taste it, I don't know. I don't think there's a thing I would change about it.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't necessarily call it a wit, which is what we were originally going for.
So, for the uneducated, what's a wit?
So a wit is a wheat beer, and it has orange and coriander in it.
Yeah.
So very popular summertime style.
Right. So
and that
bright and.
Yeah, and that's what actually inspired us to make this beer. Is we, as weird as it sounds, we wanted to make a dark summer beer.
Well, because usually stouts and porters are good wintertime.
Yes.
It's shitty outside.
Which we have a lot of customers ask us all the time, when are we going to do a stout? When are we going to do a porter?
Yeah.
And I usually tell them like, maybe in the fall time, I think it would hit the spot. But I mean, we feel the same as them. We like malty beers, and we like dark malty beers and light malty beers. I mean, our two mainstays are blonde and amber. Our highest rated beer of all time is shipping up to Airdrie Irish Cream Ale, which is a very malty beer. The signature of any cream ale is actually the addition of corn, which kind of makes it fun and unique and different.
Yeah.
But all three of these beers in front of us are very malt style beers.
Yeah, they're lovely. You just won some awards. Mm-hmm. So that's pretty amazing. Right out of the gate, first year of business, and you guys are taking home awards. Which ones?
Well, we got the gold medal at the Alberta Beer Awards for this one here, the East Lake Amber.
Yeah.
I guess the only one that we didn't try out of the three of these. And we also got, at Alberta Beer Festivals. This one got bronze for best wheat/wit/rye, which is a very big category. Okay. So the fact that we got bronze is quite outstanding. I was pretty happy.
And so is this one specifically that you can find at Hayden Block in Calgary and
Main Street here
in Airdrie? Yeah,
as well as First and Vine. We just got picked up by Bose in Red Deer, which is a fantastic live music venue/restaurant.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, it's a great place to check out.
And you guys are in liquor stores all over.
Yes. Mostly in Airdrie.
Yeah, okay.
And I think that's one of the good things, and I don't want to say bad things, but Airdrie is a very thirsty town. So we do get a lot of complaints from people in Calgary and Red Deer and Edmonton, like, where can we find your beer? And I haven't done a lot of expanding in those areas.
Right, because you can only make so much right now, and it's getting absorbed by your...
Yeah. and you know,
That's amazing.
And especially being, I think at this point, we're about 8 months old. So there's room to expand production, and that's what we're working on. But we don't want to sacrifice quality for quantity, for larger production. So it's one of those things where I'd rather disappoint a few people and leave them waiting than to deliver a product that's not what you have in front of you right now.
Right. And I mean, even better still, if you can't wait for it to hit your local beer store, get up here to Airdrie and you can have it right out of the tap.
Yes.
Which is, and I watch you pour, and you've got a science behind your pour as well.
That is true. Actually, our good friend Michael, he's the biggest beer nerd we knew, so we hired him. And he actually is the inspiration for different casks that we do. We talk about new styles of beer. Yeah. The guy knows the stuff, and anyone who follows anything beer related on Twitter, Untapped, know who Michael is. Michael, I can never pronounce his last name, Radazin. Sorry, Michael, if you're listening to this and I got that wrong. But
we can back up if you want.
Oh, no, that's fine. But he's actually doing his Cicerone training, which is similar to that of being a sommelier for wine. You could be a Cicerone for beer.
Very cool.
Yes. And so things as, seemingly simple as pouring a beer off the tap are not that easy.
No, I watch you do it, and there's stuff happening all over the place to make this happen.
Oh, yeah. Well, the big thing when you pour beers, especially out of the tap, is you want to release that CO2. Yeah. You want the beer to open up. You want to be serving it at the right temperature, and your little layer of head on the top of the beer, that always helps too.
Yeah, nice.
So...
That's cool. So your journey, if I could go back in time a little.
Yeah, let's bounce around this.
Awesome. So you're a pastry chef, we'll say, just for simplicity. You do lots of stuff, but and you guys, you and Pam talked about opening a brewery, thinking that would be cool. And I know a couple of years ago we were talking, you were building your business plan and stuff like that. How did you get from there to here? Like, did you know how to set all this up? Like, how'd you get that knowledge? Like, if I want to start a brewing company tomorrow,
just come talk to me. That goes for anyone listening to. If you're serious about opening a brewery, just come talk to me, because that's what I did on day one. Yeah. So we had intended on opening a brewery. I mean, we caught the bug. We thought it was a cool idea. I loved the science behind it, and it would just, to us, it seemed like a no-brainer. Produce something that we love. So when we came back to Alberta, you couldn't, for the longest time, produce in this province, so we didn't know how to execute our plan. But it was one day, I forget the exact day, but they changed the laws. It used to be you had to produce a mandatory minimum of beer, and it was an insanely high number that we would not be able to do. Right. And as soon as they changed that law, the next day I took my dad aside because I was actually plumbing with him. That's the family business, is plumbing. And I said, I'm going to open a brewery. And he said, great, that sounds awesome. I'm like, cool, okay, awesome. So my very first call was actually to Village, just because... I enjoyed their product. They were a company that, in my mind, went from 0 to 100 overnight. Yeah. And it's because they had all the right people pushing in the right directions. I'm sure they went through all their own trials and everything else. But for me as a consumer, here's a tiny company that just exploded onto the scene. So I called them, and the receptionist picked up, and I said, hey, I'm thinking about opening a brewery. Who do I talk to?
Oh my God.
And it was just that stupid. And they put me in touch with Jeremy. He's their quality assurance manager. Fantastic dude. And I was brewing with them. I was consulting with them. I was taking them out for beers and saying, where do you get your chemicals from? Where do you get this equipment from? Where do you do this? And just had a notebook and would just constantly be taking notes.
And they were that open about it?
Yes.
Wow.
And through them, we got put in touch with our good buddy at Wildrose. And they were a big help. And as more microbreweries popped onto the scene, like people would open ahead of us, it wouldn't hurt to pop in. I remember going to visit Brian at Canmore Brewing. Never met the guy before, but I just happened to be in Canmore, went in for a pint and just said, oh, hey, I'm opening a brewery. And he was kind enough to be like, oh, I have 5 minutes. Let me show you around.
Wow.
And so I will say, as a business owner, that's a little annoying when someone just shows up and says, oh, hey, I'm thinking about doing it too.
Right.
You're like, okay, comment to the back. But it's something that I will gladly pass on.
Right. Yeah, pay it forward kind of.
Yeah, because there's not another brewery that didn't help us out.
Amazing.
Like pretty much all of them, at least all the ones we called upon and then some.
Wow. So, and that, I don't know, it's not that it's counterintuitive, but you'd think that they'd want to keep their part and be protectionist, but it sounds like it's completely the opposite.
Yes. I mean, don't get me wrong, everyone has their own trade secrets.
Sure.
I'm not expecting, it's hard to find an example because everyone is so free and honest and open, but if someone didn't want to tell me their exact beer recipe for making a beer, I get that, I understand that, but that's your right. But actually, I've not come upon that yet. Nor do I usually ask, like, hey, what's every ingredient that you put into a beer? Yeah. But you could ask, like, oh, what do you think of these malts? What do you think of these hops? Everything else. Right. And together, we're just building this one giant community.
Amazing.
So most of the breweries that I know are part of what's called the Alberta Small Brewers Association.
Okay. And
that is our association. That is our lobbying power for the provincial government. And I think a little bit for the federal. I'm not too sure on that though. But yeah, we literally all work together as one big company because as individuals, we don't have those kind of resources. Yeah. So together, collectively, we're actually making a giant impact on this province.
That's amazing. That is so good to hear. Like I love hearing stuff like that where it's people coming together instead of warring parties. It's such a refreshing thing to hear.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even in Airdrie, so we're the only ones in Airdrie right now. And there's another group, they're calling themselves 948, and they're coming up and they want to, I believe they started contract brewing out of Red Bison, and they're looking for a space here in town.
Yeah.
And some people will come up to us and be like, oh, are you worried? And I say, no, I'm encouraging them to open.
Yeah. So you've got this potential new competitor coming into Airdrie, moving in on your turf.
Yeah, and that's the common perception, is that another brewery moves in and they're going to be taking away our business.
Right.
We don't view it as that. I don't think anyone in this industry views it as that. It's quite the opposite. So
what's the name of that company?
948. 948.
Yeah.
Really nice guys. They're contract brewing out of Red Bison right now, and they're looking for a space. They're going to do small scale brewing, I think closer to like the Dandy kind of model of small, cool stuff, which is awesome.
Yeah, I like Dandy.
Oh yeah, me too. They're fantastic. But it's one of those things, especially here in Airdrie, we're Airdrie's first and only, which means that there's a certain amount of, call it education, that needs to be done. So people still ask us questions like, oh, what's on your food menu? Do you guys serve wine? Why aren't you open Monday, Tuesday?
Yeah.
Or why aren't you open for lunch? And that's fine because, if I had never been to a brewery before, and breweries are very new in this province, I would ask the exact same questions.
Right.
But the fact of the matter is we produce beer here. You come here and you get a beer.
Yeah.
And we have a snack menu where you can get little munchies to have while you're drinking your wine. We even have a very nice cheese and cracker tray.
Nice.
but like, that's not what it is. I usually compare us, and I think I mentioned Starbucks earlier. I like to compare us to a coffee shop, because you're not going to a coffee shop to get dinner.
Right.
You're going into a coffee shop to grab a coffee and a scone.
Yeah.
Here you're grabbing, a beer and cheese and crackers.
Right.
Or even our beef jerky or pepperoni sticks.
Yeah.
Which I mentioned because it's actually made with our grain. So a farmer picks up our grain, feeds it to his cattle, and X-nays the cattle, and we have pepperoni and beef jerky.
What? Okay, so we talked a little bit about your full circle, furniture making business.
Yes.
And so explain this to me. You use local grains.
Yes.
And so you use those, and then your spent grain goes back to cattle.
Yes.
Cattle graze on it.
So the bulk of our grain comes from Alix, Alberta. We're getting more and more specialty grain from Red Shed and Red Deer. They're fantastic dudes.
Yeah.
Origin Malting in Strathmore is making fantastic stuff. Their problem is they opened a small little brewery to kind of showcase their stuff, and it's so good they can't keep up. So now they're making a bigger brewery, so I'm concerned I won't get any of their malt because they'll just be blasting through it. But no, they're fantastic. We try and keep everything as local as possible.
Yeah.
And I like being local, but honestly, and this is not my opinion, it's a matter of fact, we have the best grain in the world in this province. The fact that we couldn't make beer here before is insane. That's like saying that you can't make wine in France.
Right.
It's stupid, right?
Right.
So we use local, because we like local, but it's the best product.
Yeah.
And the more things that we could use local and keep local, I'm totally a fan of.
Yeah.
And so, when we're talking about full circle, just like these benches and table, our grain, we get local.
Yeah.
We use it, we turn it into beer. When it's left over, there's still a lot of very good nutrients and minerals and everything else in there.
Yeah.
So a farmer picks it up and feeds it to his cattle.
Amazing.
Yeah, and it just makes sense to us. We're done with it. We have no use for it, inherent use. And so we just pass it along, he feeds it, and everyone's happy.
So you don't charge him for it, he just picks it up and...
Oh, please, take it.
What a great thing, though.
Yes. It would probably cost me money to dispose of that.
Sure.
And he is paying money for feed for his cattle. So this is just a win-win. It's stupid how simple that is.
Yeah. Amazing. And then you get some jerky out of it.
Yes. There's a lot of things that we do around here just to try and be extra sustainable, because
Nice.
I do think that is important.
Yeah.
Just the fact that we chill our beer with water coming into the building, so that we're not basically wasting energy.
No.
So all the water coming in is already cold.
Yeah.
It just comes out of the ground. It's cold.
Yeah.
We use that to chill down the beer, and then we capture all the heated up water, and that's what we use to make our next batch.
No way.
Or even our aluminum cans. We prefer a can product. We think it's the best and safest way to package our beer.
Okay.
Because light and oxygen deteriorate beer. So can is a perfect little vessel. It's basically a mini keg. But cans are the most recyclable material in the world. They're lighter to ship. They're easier on us, and they're easier on the environment. So why wouldn't we put it into there?
Yeah.
So that room next door, it started its life as my shipping and receiving area, which I kind of miss. So last winter I had a place to park my truck and load it up full of cans and kegs.
Yeah.
But then kind of now it's an example of, this is a very new industry to Alberta, and things are constantly changing for the good and sometimes for the bad. But in the case of that space there, right before we opened up, like a month before, they offered a brand new license from the AGLC. That would allow us to do things like have bands play, or, we could do, I believe yoga is one of the official things that we're allowed to do there. There's a list of things that you could do.
You're in yoga.
It makes sense.
Man, they just go together naturally.
But, so it started its life off as a warehouse, and then we put a couple standing tables in there and a couple benches. And then more customers would offer to donate us like couches and tables and chairs.
And there's some old video game consoles
Yes,
back there.
That's also true. And some foosball tables.
Yeah.
And so slowly but surely, it's kind of developed into its own thing.
Yeah.
And it, like I said, is an example of us adapting to the new rules that exist.
Yeah.
Because one of the biggest draws that we have now is the fact that we open up those giant garage doors and you get sit on a couch or on a table in the sun in the middle of the summer and enjoy your beer.
Right.
Like, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
So we're talking right now in the original tasting room, which fits, I think, like around 25 people,
Yeah.
whereas that space can fit, 3-4 times that.
Yeah.
Because the original plan here was come down, have a pint, fill a growler, and leave.
Right.
But we now have the ability that you can come down, grab a couple pints, and if we have a food truck, grab a burger,
Yeah.
or if we have a band, come listen to the band. Like, just a lot of really cool things that we can do.
That's super cool. You mentioned growlers, and
Yep.
so growlers are fairly new to my world because I think I just started hearing about getting a growler like maybe 2 years ago. What is it? Why is it good? What's the point of them?
Yep.
Is it better than buying a 6-pack?
Yes and no.
Okay.
In my opinion, the best beer that you could have is directly out of the tap.
Right.
Like, I went on a rant about our canning and how awesome our canning is, and I absolutely love getting canned beer. The thing about any beer is it's ready to go when it's in the bright tank. From bright tank, we put it into a keg, which is a sealed stainless steel vessel, sitting with a layer of CO2, pressurizing it, and then we tap it, keeps it under CO2, and it pushes out of that keg, and that is fresh beer.
Right.
So even though cans are a very close second, this is still number one in my mind.
The growler.
Well,
Or the keg.
beer coming out of the tap, yeah.
Yeah, beer coming out of the tap.
So with growlers just grant you the ability to take that beer, capture it, and bring it home. The downside is, and this is part of that, why we want to expand beer culture, like in a place like Airdrie or in Alberta in general, because it's fairly new, is something like a growler. This is not something that you want to leave in your fridge for a couple weeks or something.
It's like buying a bottle of wine and you open it one night and you should either finish it that night or the next day.
Yes. Although, to back up even more, it's like you opened it in the store and then put the cork back in.
Okay.
So
It's a little more, yeah.
The nice thing is with the growler, we fill a growler, we cap a growler. You could take it home. I recommend drinking it within a couple days. Up to a week isn't bad, but the more time that passes, the more the quality of that beer is deteriorating.
Right.
So the sooner the better. And then once you do open it at home, then that's just like the wine bottle analogy, or even a bottle of 7-Up or Sprite or,
Right.
What RC Cola, what other brands do you know? And wine also counts for this, but just like a thing of soda, you're actually going to start losing those dissolved CO2, the
Right.
carbonation. And just like wine, it's going to start oxidizing. So once it starts oxidizing, you're actually going to ruin the flavor. So if you crack it open, you drink half your beer, put it in the fridge, you had it the next night, it's not going to be the same beer.
Gotcha.
It's going to be flat, and it's going to be off.
Right. So how many beer fit in a growler?
Well, a 64 ounce, that's 4, I think, is that British pint or American pint is 16 ounces, but 4 pints.
Yeah.
And then the little guys are 32 ounce, so 2.
2.
Yeah. Snack size, meal size is how I like to think about it. But realistically, if you and a buddy are hanging out, you're going to have 2 pints each. A growler is a very decent size for an evening.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Yeah. It when you look at that much beer in one vessel, you think it's a lot. But we package our cans into 4-pack tall boys, so it's the same as having 2 beers each.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And so I come in and I pick up a growler. Is the price of it, do I have to pay a deposit on the growler, like the actual vessel?
You own the vessel.
I own the vessel.
You own the vessel.
Okay.
Yes, you're the proud owner of a vessel.
I love this.
Yes. A lot of people collect growlers from different breweries.
Okay.
I get asked all the time, will we fill a growler that doesn't have our name on it? And I say yes, because it's my beer going into it.
Sure.
And we just make sure legally we have to properly label what goes inside.
Right.
So the tags have the beer name, percentage, our name on it, etc.
Is there anything they have to do to clean it and dry it?
Oh, dear God, yes.
Because that sounds like a production.
No, not necessarily. For me, like my own personal growler, when I'm finished with it, I'll rinse it out. Sometimes if it has a little bit of a must going on, I'll give it like hot water with a splash of vinegar, and then rinse it out thoroughly from there. Turn it upside down to air dry. Don't put the cap back on because moisture will build up. Yeah. And that's pretty much it. Huh. It's relatively simple.
So, but it's a little more low maintenance than I thought it would be, actually.
Yeah, but that being said, if you bring in a growler here that has not been kept like that, if we're slow, we'll take it back to the sinks and try and clean it up best as we can. But if it's bad, we won't put product in it because
yes. Don't bring your funky growlers here.
Bring your funky growlers, but not funky smelling growlers. Yeah, so when you look at growlers compared to something like pack of cans you take home, put in your fridge, you don't have to worry about it. Yeah. Growlers it just gives it that certain je ne sais quoi.
So come down here and get a growler or two, a snack size or a meal size. And how often do you change your flavors? Now you said you kept the blonde and you keep the amber. That's pretty much your mainstay. Those are always around.
Yes.
This burnt wheat is around for a bit. Yeah. But you've had some really cool funky ass beers that you've produced here.
Yeah, we did Rye of the Hop, which was a rye IPA. We did Frosty the Brewman, which is a winter ale. Yeah. We then aged some of that Frosty the Brewman in a barrel. That was pretty wild. We did Shipping Up to Airdrie Irish Cream Ale, which between you and me, and depending when this comes out, we will be permanently re-releasing that one.
Oh, cool.
Because, we didn't expect people to like it as much as we did, because it's kind of think of a Kilkenny style cream ale. Yeah. So darker in color, malty in flavor. The addition of corn makes it kind of creamy and sweet and kind of gives it something else entirely. Yeah. No, it went over fantastically. So we did that for St. Patrick's Day, and I believe, I don't want to quote myself right now. I don't know when this is coming out, but it will be coming back. Cool. Permanent. And then our roasted pineapple sour was a particular example of something that, so we like to do things that are kind of one and done. Yeah. Where, like I said, we like to experiment. And I talked about this burnt orange earlier, and it's just one of those things where it was our best guess. Yeah. And people love it, which is great. And we'll never release a beer that we don't love. And knock on wood, hasn't been an issue. But if something turned out and we're like, oh, no, we have no problem disposing of it. That is our risk to take. Yeah, sure. Not your risk as a consumer, like whether or not this beer is going to be good. But the nice thing is, sometimes you strike gold with these guys. And in the case of the roasted pineapple sour, usually we'll keep a seasonal for 5 to 7 weeks. That one sold out in about 2.
Oh, wow.
and oh, man, I don't want to say we're getting hate mail about it, but a lot of people are like, why don't you have it? Yeah. Where is it?
Well, and so this was the impetus towards your, what happened earlier today.
Yes.
You went and had some deal in a parking lot.
Yeah.
What was that about?
It looks sketchy as all hell. But we actually get Greek yogurt culture to sour our beer. Oh. Basically, when you're brewing beer, you're trying not to infect it. Yeah. When you're making sour beer, you're purposefully infecting it. It's with Greek yogurt culture. It's done in a very controlled manner. It happens within our brew house, within the boil kettle. We bring the boil down to 30 degrees, cover it with CO2, add in the Greek yogurt culture, let it grow, multiply, brings down the pH, boil it off again just to kill everything else, and then we have sour beer.
Oh my God.
And we also make that beer with roasted pineapple that's actually roasted here at Main Street Beer and Barbecue.
You're kidding me.
Yeah, so they bring it in, they roast it and give it a light applewood smoke, and that's how we make this roasted pineapple sour. It's a lot of work, but actually it's probably one of the more fun beers we've ever made.
Wow.
And so the shady dealing in the parking lot was from our dairy supplier who has Greek yogurt culture. They just happened to be making deliveries in Calgary today, and I had to meet the girl at a Tim Hortons where she hands me these 2 vials. They look kind of like pill capsules, and I just kind of stuff them into my hoodie jacket and say, oh, thank you. And yeah, if RCMP was there, they'd be like just taking a second gander at that, just being like, hey, what does that say on the bottle?
Yeah.
But no, completely legal as far as I'm concerned, as far as I know.
Some underground Greek.
Oh, it was sketchy.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
But yeah, so that one, like, really due to popular demand, we've kind of had to put hiatus on all the other kind of fun summertime things that we were thinking about making to make that one again. But in all fairness to that beer, it had a very short window where it was actually available here at the brewery.
Yeah.
So it never really got to stay in the sun.
Right.
And it was one of the more fantastic beers. So
That's great.
yeah, last time we made one batch, we'll be making 2 batches and just kind of play it by ear.
Very cool.
And then maybe make it a summertime release or something. I don't want to commit to that right now. But like I said, it was probably the most fun beer we've ever made and probably one of our best tastings. So why not?
Yeah. And so just to go back to this burnt wheat
Yes.
one, is this going to be a staple for you guys, or is it a one-off?
No, this is a one and done.
Wow.
I mean,
Get here before it's gone. This is so good. If you like dark beers that are bright, that don't make you feel tired and cozy and warm, this is perfect. It's
if you want a dark beer you can drink when it's 35 degrees outside, that's this beer. Yeah.
That's amazing. What's your favorite band right now?
Oh, Arcade Fire, hands down.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Are you gonna go see them there at Stampede, aren't they? No, that's Alexis on Fire.
And I will probably see them.
Nice.
I've only seen them once. It was during the Olympics in Vancouver, and they had to stop halfway through the first song because the barricades collapsed.
Oh my God.
So that's the only time I've ever seen Alexis on Fire, so I'll see if I can see them this time. But I also might be busy, working. So.
Yeah, it's a non-stop thing for you guys, that's for sure. So Arcade Fire is your go-to. What's your second? Like the harder stuff.
Oh no, it's whatever I feel like listening to at the moment. The new Gorillaz album just came out.
Oh yeah.
Which I've spun a couple times. It's good. I usually take me about 10 full tries of an album before I'll give an honest opinion.
Yeah.
But I mean, I absolutely loved Humans, and before that, Plastic Beach is one of my favorite all-time albums.
Yeah.
So I'm really looking forward to deep diving into this one.
Yeah.
Spun it about 3 times so far. I'm digging it.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's Humans level quite yet, but maybe talk to me in a week and we'll decide then.
That's cool.
And then the other one right now, this moment in time that I'm listening to a bunch is Kids See Ghosts.
Okay.
Which is a collaboration between Kanye West and Kid Cudi. Oh yeah, it's super good.
Crazy.
It's like one of those albums where you start listening to it and you're like, oh, this is something I'm going to listen to a lot of.
Yeah. Kid Cudi's funny because I really, the first time I heard him, I did not like him at all. I was like, I don't know, I just couldn't wrap my head around his style. But your 10 album rule is the thing. By the time, eventually it just got baked into my psyche, and I dig it.
Yeah. I find very rarely is an album where you listen to it once and go, oh, this album's for me.
Yeah.
Couple exceptions, both the last albums by Arcade Fire, Reflector, and Everything Now. Yeah. From track 1, I was like, oh, this is something special.
Yeah.
So.
Well, there's a lot of brand new stuff. Like brand new, the band.
Oh, actually named Brand New?
Yeah.
Never listened to them.
Oh, see, I might like them.
All right, should listen to Brand New.
Video games, is that a thing for you?
Yep.
What's your platform?
PC.
Oh, okay.
PC Master Race, yeah.
PC what?
Master Race.
Master Race.
Yeah, that's the official subreddit for PC gaming. Yeah, it seems very double entendre, I think, but it seems very un-PC.
Yeah, sure.
Isn't politically correct. But, I mean, Terry Crews is a member, so I think it's all good.
Yeah.
Because that guy's the man.
Oh, yeah.
And just an absolute gem of a human being. So if he's a member of PC Master Race, I'll consider myself one too.
Nice.
Always been a fan of building PCs.
Yeah.
just to have that customizability. I mean, we've had this talk before off mic. I used to be a Mac guy, and I just think price per performance, it's not worth it.
Well, and I would agree from a gaming platform perspective.
No, I got the full Adobe suite on there, and I know you're recording this on Adobe. It looks fantastic, and that computer is super cool and all. But you can whip up something for audio recording for $600 all in. That's going to just smoke your laptop.
Well, you know what? If I could have the Mac OS on it, or even if I just went
ditch Mac OS,
Linux. Oh, I can't stand
Windows 10.
I can't stand Windows. Oh, fuck.
When was the last Windows you had? I like how this is more heated than anything we talked about here. What was the last edition of Windows you had?
Well, we got a laptop for the...
Just say Windows 7.
No, we got the last
8?
laptop we got for the Loose Moose had Windows 10 on it, and it was a freaking gong show.
Yeah.
Because it just updates whenever the hell it wants. You can't shut it off. You can't seem to turn off the updates. So in the middle of a show, it suddenly decide to go offline and update stuff.
Oh, fantastic! Yeah,
I can't. Honestly, it makes me twitchy just talking about Windows anything.
All right. Well, on the complete flip side, I still use my MacBook Pro daily. It is a good computer, but it was a mid 2009.
Right.
And since then, what have I done to it? I've replaced the hard drive with solid state. That's always your biggest bottleneck.
Totally.
And then I replaced the CD drive because no one uses a CD drive with the old hard drive. So I actually got 2 hard drives in there.
Nice.
One for the OS to boot up on, the other one for just mass storage. I put a little bit more RAM, which as soon as you open Chrome, you need that. And then as of more recently, because I was getting really hot temperatures on my CPU and GPU, I pulled off the heat sinks and just put a new layer of thermal paste on it. So I'm getting way better thermals. That being said, according to Mac, my computer is obsolete.
Crazy.
So for me, for everything I do with it, which is basically Chrome and business, so Office Suite, as well as some Adobe stuff, it's still it works so well. Yeah. But Apple has said it's obsolete, so no more updates, no more security updates. Soon, if not already, Chrome is going to fall to the wayside because it won't update because it's using such an obsolete version of OS X. Yeah. So now I have to go out theoretically and buy a new computer because this one's obsolete.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah. So for me, and yet again, it's not so much the price because I'm a big fan of always getting the right tool for what you're doing.
Yeah, totally.
But it's just hard for me to support something that supports forced obsolescence.
Sure. Well, one of the best computers I ever had was a Hackintosh. Mm-hmm. So it was basically PC guts running the OS, Mac OS, and it was great because I could beef the hell of it. So to that, I understand. Building a tower... a production tower, especially for video, because I do a lot of video stuff and 3D and stuff like that. You need to have as much video card as you can. As much RAM as you can pack into that thing. A RAID, which is always important.
I mean, the new iMac Pros, I wish they would update the actual Mac Pros, but the new iMac Pros, I think the top tiered video card that you could put in it is a Vega 64 by AMD, and I'm a huge AMD fanboy. I got a Ryzen 5 1600X in my computer, which is just a fantastic CPU. I'm sorry to say, but I've always been a fan of NVIDIA graphics cards. And the fact that you go out and buy the latest and greatest iMac Pro with the highest end graphics card that it comes with, I'm sorry, you can build a real sweet, even Intel based PC with a real nice GTX 1070i, 1080, 1080i, and you're going to get way more computing power. Especially when you talk about video editing or rendering or anything else. You can build that for the same cost or price as an iMac, if not less, for what you need it for. And that's the part that gets me. I understand your qualms with the OS.
Totally.
Yeah.
I can't get around it.
No, I know. Honestly, I've been back in Windows for so long that I can't. It's even using my laptop, it's kind of hard to go back sometimes.
Yeah. Well, it's also a different paradigm as well. But Apple, be on notice. Stop doing weird shit and fucking up your market.
Oh man, I understand their qualm with allowing people to customize and adjust.
Oh, sure, we can't know quality control. I mean, there's all sorts of. That's why they sandboxed everything, right?
Yeah.
So
And like
I totally get it.
I used to have an iPhone, and now I have a Galaxy. I can't wait for the Pixel 3 to come out because I'm a huge fan of Google products. But I used to like the fact that if my iPhone broke, I would take it into the Apple Store, and they would give me a brand new one.
You're right.
Because I actually broke my last phone, the Nexus 6P, because it had a faulty battery, and I tried replacing it on my own and ended up cracking the screen.
Sure.
Yeah, so like I get that about Mac, and that's the really nice part.
Yeah.
I just think for what I use it for, like dollar per performance, not worth it.
Well, and you're you're I think the very first person I ever heard say, "Okay, Google," and.
Didn't recognize your voice.
I don't know who that guy is.
I never thought I would talk to my phone, and then I started talking to my phone.
It's great.
Absolutely love it.
Yeah.
Actually, how many people's phones just went off because you said it? Hey Alexa.
Hey Siri.
Yes.
Oh, nothing. Thanks.
Go away.
You're most certainly welcome.
Mine tells better jokes.
Yeah, I'm sure it does. It's got actual personality.
So to answer your question, Far Cry 5.
Okay. Far Cry 5. I think I got Far Cry 4 on my PS4.
Yep.
And I'm just getting through, oh my god, Fallout 4.
Fallout I never really got into it, but I don't really have the time.
Yeah, it's a beast for time. Like, I just can't, I don't have that many hours.
Yes. And I tried to like go headfirst into it. I think it was like the last Steam summer sale where it was however many dollars off, so I picked it up. And I probably gave it like a solid, 4 hours or so.
Yeah.
And started getting into it. But then, life happens.
Right.
And it was a couple weeks before I picked it back up and I'm like,
I remember what you're doing and where you're going.
No. Whereas a nice like linear story-based game where, Far Cry 5 is essentially an open sandbox, but it's a very linear game. You go see someone about a mission, then you go complete the mission.
Yeah.
So when I have, half an hour, I could just like sit down, boot up Far Cry 5, and then all of a sudden like, take out this guy in this base, and you just pull out all your guns and you go ransack the place. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I just did, I was playing Call of Duty World War II.
How was it?
It's okay. The gameplay is not quite what I was hoping. I think the best I've played so far, like this year, has been Wolfenstein 2, which was freaking awesome. Like, that was everything about that game is enjoyable for me. Like, it was intuitive controls, it was engaging story.
I heard the first one's really good too.
Yeah, I haven't played it. I came late to the party.
Well, if anyone wants to start anywhere in Far Cry series, just pick up 3.
Yeah.
Start with 3.
Okay.
Because it's basically the same game, minor upgrades, which I'm always fine with. I said it when Far Cry 4 came out. I'm like, hey, if it's the exact same game as 3, but a new map, and you get to ride elephants, I'm in.
Yeah.
And so the second one basically took place in Tibet, even though they don't call it Tibet. The first one's a tropical island, and this new one's Montana.
Crazy.
Oh yeah, you're a deputy going up against a cult.
Awesome.
Oh, it's great. It's fantastic.
Oh, that's cool. And I also did that new Star Wars one, what was it?
Battlefield 2?
Battlefield 2? The Star Wars one?
Is that the pay-to-play one? Where you pay like $100 to get the game, and then you got to pay like $5 to unlock Darth Vader every time. And
No, because
is it made by EA?
Yeah,
Okay, then it
I
is.
think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember having to pay. I should check my credit card bill.
Oh yeah, you should. Well, sorry, are you getting dominated all the time by like 5-year-olds with bank accounts? Yeah.
It's
because they're paying.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. Now I know. Yeah, but I did like flying the TIE fighters and the X-Wings.
Yeah,
that
would almost make it worth it.
Yeah, that was where I got my most joy. VR What's your take on that?
Well, you were there when I tried it.
You haven't gone back?
No.
Oh, okay.
Would love to. Actually, I think we talked about it off mic before, where I think, just my own nerdy background, I think that'd be an excellent loss leader in a place like this.
Yeah, you've got room to put 2 stations in there and have, or 4.
Yeah. I don't know how VR and beer would mix. Maybe the vomit ratio would go up after people are like spinning around. I tried. What was that? There was one game we played where you got in the elevator and then you walked out on a plank and then you fell.
The elevator experience.
I don't think I could do that one.
That was terrifying.
I couldn't do that while drinking. Hell no.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I'm a huge fan of VR. Every time I play it, I feel like most of the games I try are just like samples as what the concept should be.
Right.
That being said, I know you can get Skyrim in VR.
Yeah. So I've done that. I've done the Flight. Is it Skyrim Flight? There's
Skyrim, I believe, is just the actual Skyrim game.
Oh, okay. Maybe I'm thinking about something else. But there's a game that you can play in VR where you're actually flying in outer space. It's freaking incredible.
Great. I want to do that one.
You can look and use your HUD and target with looks as you're flying. It's wild. That's
yeah,
so cool.
I want to do that one. Whereas, there's a car racing game. Project Cars, I believe, is VR ready.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So
I haven't played that one yet.
If I could just like hop in a Ferrari and drive, yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
I'm down.
Cool.
It's totally worth the price to buy a new graphics card.
Totally. What's your final thoughts on opening brewery? This venture that you and Pam are on right now. Give me your closing thoughts.
Oof. My closing thoughts. I don't know. It just seems, especially right now, in this time in Alberta, there's not like one sentiment that's going to wrap this up. It's a constantly ever-evolving thing.
Coming up next week, Kat Lesperance from The Sensible Marketer talks about how she got started in business, where the fire for entrepreneurialism first ignited, and what it is that makes it all worthwhile. Check out the next episode on Rebel Rebel.